Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another ACGL breakdown. And today I am joined by an amazing guest, Pirates Snowyy, a man with a lot of accolades alongside his team, Pirates XD, who have achieved so much in their run. Pirates, Snowyy, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming down and having this chat with me. I really do appreciate it. But for the people who may not know you, right? I think this would be a perfect time to sort of introduce yourself and allow people to understand who you are and what you represent.
So I'm Snowyy. Obviously, that's my online alias. My actual name is Gareth. And I am a Rocket League player for Orlando Pirates. I'm the captain of our team. And yeah, I've been competing in Rocket League for the last sort of 4 years, roughly. And yeah, I've been pretty much sort of the best player over those last 4 years. And you know, my team and our roster has pretty much dominated since, I would say, roughly about, you know, somewhere in the middle of 2018. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
You know, I really love that you actually got into that, because that's part of my next question is, you know, you're part of Pirates. We understand that now. But Pirates has to be one of the most dominant Rocket League teams that has ever been seen in Sub-Saharan, our Sub-Saharan region. You guys are one of the most decorated Rocket League teams, that we cannot dispute. But how have you guys stayed such a dominant team and stayed on top of your game for so many years? You know, because, you know, for some teams, it's sort of they dominate for a year or two, but you guys have been at it, as you mentioned, since 2018. How have you kept that momentum?
Well, I think we're just really hungry to win. I think that's just kind of just how we are, how I am specifically. And the players that I've played with over the years, obviously there's been a few roster iterations of Pirates or XD.
Yeah.
And pretty much, you know, all of the players that I've played with, and like I said myself, we're extremely hungry to win. So the motivation has always been there to just, you know, try and win every single tournament we compete in. You know, we don't compete to come second. You know, when we come second, that's a huge disappointment to us. So obviously, like I said, we're hungry to win. And obviously, in South Africa, there isn't a huge player base. And for a few years in local Rocket League, there wasn't really much to play for. There was only a handful of tournaments, and even those tournaments weren't particularly big prize pools. So it wasn't exactly the most difficult thing to dominate. But you know, that will slowly change because of the introduction of RLCS the last year. But you know, even regardless of that, the new players and the bigger player base and the hungrier players, that just motivates us even more and it pushes us harder to try and still dominate and also just be better in general.
Understood. Yeah, I think definitely, as you mentioned, having that drive, not only for you, but as a team, I think if it's sort of a team dynamic thing where you guys are constantly pushing to be the best that you can be, and obviously, you know, you guys seeing second place is sort of a disappointment, it sort of drives you even more to try and actually hit that first place position. And I think maybe that really has been what has contributed to your success over the years. But moving on from that, you and the guys qualified for Worlds in Dallas. So Worlds is the Rocket League World Championships, and I just want to understand, right? What was the feeling like when you guys knew about it or realized that you guys are going to be attending the Rocket League World Championships as, you know, a part of the first SSA teams to actually ever do that?
Well, obviously, it was an incredibly exciting feeling. You know, like I say, for many years we played with, you know, there was nothing really to play for, like no tournaments, and you know, motivation was definitely a struggle. So when we got added to RLCS and we found out that we'd have a spot at the World Championship, it was a complete revelation, really. And you know, a lot of people ask me about that moment of, like, you know, when we qualified. And for us, we didn't really have that moment. For us, because we knew we were so good and so much better than the other teams, pretty much when it got announced, we knew, okay, we're going to be one of the teams. So there were 2 spots, and we knew that we would be 100% be one of the teams there. So that moment was basically when the season was announced. You know, that moment when, you know, we read that there'd be 2 spots at the wild card, and we obviously discussed it between each other. And yeah, like I say, it was an amazing moment because we knew finally that would be our moment. After so many years of struggle and hardship, locally, we'd finally have our big moments. Amongst the best teams in the world on the world stage, and in particular, it's RLCS. It's not just some other event. Like RLCS has been the main championship throughout the years for Rocket League, and obviously that's always been the main goal for us. So yeah, it was a very special moment to find out that we would be one of the teams that represents South Africa at Worlds.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it must have felt like. And I mean, you mentioned it already, there wasn't really much to play for, before the introduction of RLCS to our region. And, having that sort of, motivation there to just keep going, to just keep grinding must have been really tough. But for something like this to, sort of come around, I think, yeah, definitely I would understand that, it would sort of be a sweet feeling, because you sort of feel like, after all the efforts you've put in, you finally are reaping the rewards that you so desperately have been, grinding for. And, although you guys fell out, you guys still bagged about $10,000 and claimed a win over a team in the World Championships, which I might add, no other SSA team has ever done, right? So you already made history there. But what was your experience like now that you've had the opportunity to compete at that level and compete in the World Championship?
Well, it was an incredible experience. I mean, personally, I had been to Europe and played there for a few months. Me and my teammate at the time, CP Zebra, we went to Europe, and we played for a bit. So we had a bit of experience then. But it was nothing compared to being at Worlds and being in the same tournament as all the best teams in the world. And for this World Championship was the first time where every region was represented. So like I said, for many years we weren't included, and there were other regions that weren't included, like Asia and Middle East, who are both of those regions are very talented. They've got good teams. So this World Championship was the first World Championship where every team was represented. So yeah, I mean, just being there, scrimming those teams, playing against them in matches, being there on stage with them was a really cool experience. And yeah, it was really special because, like I said, that this was the moment we've been waiting for many years. So to finally be there, experience it, and also just experiencing the level of gameplay that those teams are at. Was really important to me and to the other South African players who were there, because it kind of gives us, a first-hand feel of what we need to get to in future to really compete and try and make deep runs in future big Rocket League lands, and in particular the World Championships. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's fantastic to hear, man, honestly. And I think I definitely agree with that. And there's always this thing that you can't really improve if you're not playing the best, right? And I feel having to come up against these types of teams, you need to understand, like, how far are we, with regards to comparing to their talent or their skill level. How far do we need to go or reach for in order to catch up to these types of teams? So I think that even that again is important, because you get to understand what level are these teams on and how can we get to this level itself. But yeah, moving on from that, you actually mentioned your experience in a European tournament, and I'm not sure if it is what I'm about to talk about, but your team played in the Gamers 8 Rocket League tournament prior to Worlds, and again, you guys made history there as well by being the first SSA team to claim an international win. Do you feel the experience from that event sort of gave you a taste of what is to come in Worlds, and do you feel that it sort of allowed for some preparation for Worlds?
Yeah, so the thing I was talking about was just me and my teammate Zebra. That was just a privately funded thing where we went to EU and just played there for 3 months for experience. And that was a long time ago. That was about 3 years ago. Yeah, so Gamers 8, a huge Rocket League LAN in Saudi Arabia. That actually happened before Worlds, which we weren't expecting. So we got on being the best team from SSA. They invited all the best teams around the world, so that included us. And yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, because we didn't actually know about that tournament until pretty short notice, and even more so we got invited, and then we didn't actually know if we were going to make it or not. So so yeah, that we went to Games 8 before Worlds, and that actually, as it turned out, that was our first international LAN appearance, for a full South African team.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it definitely prepped us for Worlds. It gave us, a nice little early indication of what we would be up against at Worlds, because obviously we were there scrimming a lot of the teams that were going to Worlds.
Yeah.
So we got that experience. But in terms of actual games, the format was different for Gamers 8. So traditional competitive Rock League is just 3v3 straight, and for Gamers 8 it was actually a slightly different version of what we call crew battles. So the way it worked at Gamers 8 was the first game in a series, let's say best of 5, so first to 3. The first game starts 3v3, and the loser of that individual game picks either 1v1 or 2v2. And then it goes 3v3 again, and then the next game you play whichever game mode wasn't played. So if ones was played, then you would play twos in the next game mode. So yeah, it was a bit of a different format. So it, the games that we actually played, we played 2 series there. Like you mentioned, we got at least our first game win on an international stage, which was nice, against the Middle East team, who are, the Middle East teams are very good.
Yeah.
So that was certainly something to go off of heading into Worlds. But the actual series itself was, was a bit different. Like in both series, I played ones games, which is a bit strange in a competitive Rock League series, because we play a 3v3 game, everything's normal, and then the next game, it's just me sitting there playing ones again. Both my teammates are watching. The camera, it's just like 5 people standing around me just playing, playing one game, which is kind of strange. But yeah, I mean, regardless of that, it was a very good early experience before Worlds, and on top of that, I'd also just like to say that event was incredible. And I'm really hoping and looking forward to future Gamers 8 events, because the way they ran it was just fantastic. The hospitality was fantastic. It was just it was an amazing experience.
No, it's fantastic to hear, man. And honestly, it really is such a sweet feeling to see, South African teams being represented on an international stage, and sort of allowing for more recognition for the region itself, because I'm pretty sure you yourself know like how much you really want the other regions to start realizing that you guys have what it takes to start competing against them, or to at least be represented on the same stage that they are being represented on. I mean, you guys also have started showing that you can, I mean, by pulling a win in the World Championships, by pulling a win in Gamers 8. So it's not like you guys are not capable, but you guys are constantly working towards showing that you guys have what it takes. And I really love to see that coming out from everyone, not just you guys but all the other teams as well. And it's also quite sweet to understand that I'm pretty sure for you, like, all the work that you guys have been putting in is starting to come to fruition. You just said you didn't even know that you were invited to Gamers 8, but I mean, it's just little things like that really go to show that the work that you're putting in really is paying off for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we know we're capable as players and as teams. I mean, we're just limited by circumstance, really. Like you mentioned earlier, you have to play against better teams to get better. And there's no other game more so where that is true than Rock League. I mean, Rock League is you're playing really just quite quite intensely with other players on the field. So you really need to play against other good teams to be ready, to get to their level. And where we are in South Africa, we're just geographically very far away from all the other regions. The closest region that we can play is EU, and that's on 180 ping. So we don't really benefit off of that.
Yeah.
So we know we're capable enough to, to be at that level. And I mean, I think if a lot of these South African players, if we lived in those regions, we would be in RLCS there, we'd be competitive there. So it's just circumstance. And I mean, I think over the next few years, we'll definitely be working to try and change that. And the more events we attend, the better that experience as it spreads around, and as players gain more of it, we will get to a better level. And come future events, we'll definitely make better runs and have better performances.
Oh, certainly indeed. But one thing I want to understand, this is going more in depth, like when you're in game, right, is especially after the games you guys played, especially in Worlds or Gamers 8, or even like intense finals in the RLCS regionals, what's it like to be in game, like in a player's perspective, with regards to competing against highly skilled teams in high intensity moments? Like, what's your mental state like in that moment?
Well, there's actually, there's a lot of emotions that you go through when you're playing. But ultimately, to be successful, in those games and those series, you have to try and be just focused on the task at hand.
Yeah.
If you start thinking about other things, you'll just start making mistakes and lose your way a bit, and that's when you start losing series. So yeah, I mean, it's mainly just focus on the game. Obviously, we're comming with each other quite intensely to try and get make the best team play possible, because it is a team sport, so we have to work together quite well. But yeah, I mean, it's mainly just quite intense. I think you feel quite a lot of tension when you're playing, and I think, I mean, you mentioned Worlds and Regionals. I think in Regionals, there's a lot more pressure because we're expected to win Regionals, and we had fierce opponents this year. So in a lot of those finals, it's just crazy pressure. Very close games, very small differences that change the outcome of who's going to win and who's going to come second. So yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of pressure. I don't really know. There's no specific emotions that we feel. I mean, I personally get very excited when when we score, we're winning. Like, I have to try and hype my team up, get the energy up. Because if you do that, you play better. I mean, a huge part of Rocket League is the mental side of things. If you're in a good place mentally, you're generally just going to do better. Even if you're not playing so great, if you just change the way you're feeling mentally, it'll flip the switch and you'll just start playing amazingly. Like I said, for local regionals, there was a lot of pressure. At Worlds, because we knew we weren't at their level, obviously we're extremely competitive, but we're also realistic and we know the game, and we knew that we were quite far behind a lot of the teams. That there are levels to any sports, and we knew we were just a level or two down on them. So when we played series against those teams, there wasn't really a huge amount of pressure on us. It was kind of just fun, actually. And it sounds weird to say that those games are fun and the regionals aren't fun. I mean, obviously we have fun competing. We're all fierce competitors, so we enjoy competing. But you don't really feel it in those tense moments, like I mentioned. So at Worlds, it was a bit more fun because we knew we're huge underdogs. This is our first Worlds. There isn't a huge amount of expectation. So we just played and we just tried our best, and we were learning a lot. As the games went on, we were like, wow, that guy was really good, or wow, we didn't know about this strategy, or they're doing this, and we try that. And there was only the series that we won at Worlds. That was against the APAC South team, so the Asia Pacific South team. And there was a bit more pressure in that series because we were actually expected to win that series. It was already like kind of a tight series with their main roster, but they actually had a sub at Worlds, and he was like a bit lower level than the two main players. I mean, regardless, he actually played insanely well. But yeah, I think in that series there was a bit more pressure. But when we won, when we were winning games, there was just, like I mentioned before, there was a huge amount of hype. And when we actually won and we got our first win at Worlds on stage in front of a fair-sized crowd, it was very exciting.
Fantastic to hear. And honestly, I just think that in those situations or moments, especially as you mentioned for local regionals where there's a lot more pressure, you need to have a lot more mental fortitude, and you need to be very, very strong, because I mean, I know sometimes you guys do tend to go for extreme amount of hours with no breaks or little breaks in between, with some fast, intense gameplay, with multiple overtimes. So I think just having sort of that mental fortitude is something that may be also essential in those types of situations. You want to add something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just going to say you're 100% right about the mental fortitude. It's absolutely required to do what we do, and Rocket League very, very specifically is a very intense game, so you definitely need the mental side of things.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. But I'm just gonna go on to my last question. Not really a question, but rather, what are your final words for the people that are watching you right now, or any upcoming Rocket League players that are possibly trying to, get to where you are, seeing that you guys have been been to Worlds, you've competed on an international stage. What do you have to say to the people that are watching you?
Well, to anyone watching and any local Rocket League players or any people who are just part of the local Rocket League scene, I would tell them that this is really just the start. This is our first season in Rocket League. A lot of the players in the scene currently have struggled for a few years, myself included. So anyone that's new to the scene or is recently started playing, this is just the start of what I'm hoping will be a very long legacy of South African or Sub-Saharan Africa Rocket League. And you have a huge opportunity here. I mean, this is probably going to grow to something much bigger than it is now. And I'd say just keep working hard, keep grinding, keep finding the opportunities that present themselves, as part of the bigger RLCS SSA. So yeah, I mean, just keep going. I said it on stage. I said SSA will be on top in a few years, and a lot of people kind of said, that's quite a statement to make, and it's a bit excessive, a bit ridiculous to say that. But I genuinely believe that South Africans have a lot of talent, and if future generations, if the new kids keep working really hard, they can absolutely make something happen. We've seen it with other regions already, teams like Furia, Renegades, Sandrock Gaming, or they call Falcons now from Middle East. So it can absolutely happen for us, but it comes down to the new players who are, who, like I say, who have just started or who are starting now. So yeah, keep working hard, guys.
And there's nothing more to be said. Honestly, thank you so much for coming down, Snowyy. It's been such a pleasure chatting to you, good sir.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome stuff. If you'd like to catch Snowyy, we'll pop down his socials down below so you can catch up with him or just give him a follow. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been the ACGL breakdown. Once again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you soon.